Raising the global happiness index one viewer at a time. This is the Daniel Natal Show. Plutarch said, "An imbalance between rich and poor is the oldest and most fatal ailment of all republics." This makes sense, since Aristotle said in Politics that republics are essentially middle-class societies. He says that only the middle class cares about the rule of law. The poor, he says, are indifferent to the law, and the rich think that the law shouldn't apply to them. So whenever the middle class disappears, so do republics. I was watching a video by billionaire investor Ray Dalio about the cycle of empires and changing world orders, and he points out what Plutarch said, how wealth disparities cause distortions in the society, and how those distortions may imperil a republic.
Over the last few years, three big things that hadn't happened in my lifetime prompted me to do this study. First, countries didn't have enough money to pay their debts, even after lowering interest rates to zero, so their central banks began printing lots of money to do so. Second, big internal conflicts emerged due to growing gaps in wealth and values. This showed up in political populism and polarization between the left, who want to redistribute wealth, and the right, who want to defend those holding the wealth.
I want to concentrate on one of the things Dalio said, namely, that between the rich and the poor, there were not just wealth disparities, but values disparities. Like Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg's Marie Antoinette moment when he told working-class people complaining of climbing gas prices to stop whining and to buy a $55,000 electric vehicle. People who can't afford the extra $2 at the pump are not likely to be able to afford a new Tesla. But it also signals something else, that Buttigieg is indifferent to the pain of the American people and has no interest in promoting policies to help them. You see the same tone deafness in wealthy Hollywood actors, also insulated from the public, who tweet things like Seth Rogen did. When a person complained about their car being broken into multiple times, Rogen tweeted, "Dude, I've lived here for over 20 years. You're nuts. Haha. It's lovely here. Don't leave anything valuable in it." Whereupon his interlocutor said, "I can still be mad though, right? I feel so violated." Rogen then rejoins, "You can be mad, but I guess I don't personally view my car as an extension of myself, and I've never really felt violated any of the 15 or so times my car was broken into. Once a guy accidentally left a cool knife in my car, so if it keeps happening, you might get a little treat." What we just saw was a millionaire lecturing a victim of a crime about how he's above petty materialism, and how the victim should just shut up and take it. This amounts to Rogen basically saying that as a rich man, he didn't really care about stolen items that he didn't need. He didn't get upset, so you shouldn't either. What we're watching is essentially the people at the top tier signaling more sympathy for the criminals than for the victims. In the wake of one politician saying that if inflation is hitting you hard, just kill your dog, you see video reactions to sociopathy like this.
Hello, poors. If you make under $300,000 a year, inflation might be hurting your wallet. The loser.
So here are some ways you can combat inflation.
If you're lower income, you might spend about 3% of your cash on gasoline.
To alter this, cut the bottom out of your car and pedal it with your feet like the Flintstones.
Relatable. Or stand outside your house and wait for a large bird to pick you up.
Okay, some more tips. Dog food can also be expensive. To counter this, try killing your dog.
The only pet that you should have should be a rock.
Substitutes are also important.
Instead of meat and vegetables, try metabolizing your own cells.
Think outside of the box by living inside of one.
When it comes to food, don't be afraid to explore. Eat lentils, drink lentils, breathe lentils, be lentils.
Buying in bulk is hard. Lentils! So try splitting the groceries with a friend. Then wait till that friend is asleep and rob them of everything they have. There are no friends in the inflation economy.
With all these tips, you'll be a more creative, more resilient person.
Brain elasticity. We hope these tips help. And remember, no one ever said this was easy.
Of course, many in the ruling class are smugly indifferent to the suffering of others. Such people are not likely to change the system. Why? Because it benefits them. Nassim Taleb warned about this in his book Anti-Fragile. He said that a society enters a dangerous phase when one portion of the society can get the benefits of a situation while offloading the liabilities onto others. Imagine, for instance, that you could eat and eat and eat and you wouldn't get fat, but the neighbor next door packed on the pounds as a result. If you could transfer the weight gain to him, would there be an incentive for you to stop binge eating? Of course not. The system that we have now, according to Taleb, has been rigged so that a very tiny portion of the elite derive benefits from policies that harm everyone else, like globalism. They import mass populations from the third world because they benefit from the cheap labor. When crime, rape, and social decay ramp up, however, it's the working class who have to live in the deteriorating neighborhoods and see their kids getting victimized. The wealthy, who are insulated in their gated communities and who send their kids to prep schools shielded from diversity, respond to the cries from the rest of the nation with that Marie Antoinette indifference. You're just against mass migration because you're a bigot, they lecture the poor from their gated mini ethno-states. I've never seen any harm from these people in my mansion, they go on. It's like I said, if you can drop a hammer on your foot and outsource the pain to someone across the country whom you've never met, would you know to stop doing it? This is a problem with little kids born with a rare genetic mutation whereby their pain signals are cut. We imagine that this must be a cool thing, not being able to feel pain. But the reality is, without those signals, these people keep getting hurt. They break bones, shatter teeth, burn skin. This syndrome is not unlike that of the wealthy, who in studies have difficulty detecting emotions. They're less concerned and less perceptive of other people's needs and wishes, said study co-author Michael Krauss, according to MSNBC. They show a deficit of empathic accuracy. Basically, like the children who have no physical sense of pain, their pain signals have been cut. Likewise in complex systems, they require feedback to operate properly, like your HVAC system. It uses a thermostat to be able to regulate the temperature in your home. Do you think that by removing that thermostat, the HVAC system would run as smoothly? Of course not. But the tendency of the wealthy is to remove feedback mechanisms in a society, like voting, for instance. The Soviet Union collapsed because the oligarchs in the country severed all feedback mechanisms from the public. Like an HVAC system deprived of a thermostat, the system went into oscillations and collapsed. According to historian Peter Turchin, for a complex society to function, it requires a unitary ethical system. That is, a moral structure to which all the participants of the society adhere. You can't have some people clinging to one ethical system while others subscribe to another. This leads to dysfunction, distrust, and collapse. Just to return to the subject of illegal immigration again as an example, the wealthy import cheap labor and barely pay them subsistence wages, so they don't have to hire Americans. When asked how these foreigners in the country illegally can afford to live on those wages, the oligarchs say they can sign up for welfare. The community will make up the difference and absorb that cost. He has no incentive to stop because he can offset the liability onto others. Imagine if that was no longer true. Imagine if at the end of the month, the wealthy oligarch or corporation were handed a bill for every child of an illegal in a school, handed a bill for their education, their health care, for English as a second language tutors, for forms that had to be reprinted in both English and Spanish. Imagine if that happened. Illegal immigration would end overnight. But if the people spearheading these policies see no consequences for their actions, then it's like the little girl who feels no pain. She keeps engaging in self-destructive behavior, and this shortens her lifespan. Likewise, the wealthy, shielded from any pain signals, engage in destructive behaviors relative to society, and this is shortening the nation's lifespan. I leave you with a repetition of what Plutarch said thousands of years ago. An imbalance between the rich and poor is the oldest and most fatal ailment of all republics. Conversations That Matter, hosted by Alex Newman, interviews key people with important information to share that they, big government, don't want you to hear. Information that might save your life and family, literally, as well as your liberty. Check it out on thenewamerican.com.